The Last Goodbye. A heartbreaking story that will touch your soul. It was a rainy evening in London. The streets shimmered under the dim glow of streetlights as people hurried home, umbrellas held tight, coats wrapped close. In a small apartment on the third floor of an old brick building, Emma sat by the window, her fingers gently brushing the foggy glass. She watched the raindrops race each other down the pane, her eyes distant, her heart heavy. Tomorrow she would say goodbye. Not to a lover, not to a friend, but to her father, the man who had raised her single-handedly, who had been her hero, her protector, her home. A lifetime in memories. Emma's childhood had been anything but easy. Her mother passed away when she was just 4, leaving her father, Daniel, to raise her alone. A factory worker by day, a taxi driver by night. Daniel worked tirelessly to ensure Emma never lacked anything. He never remarried. He never complained. He never let Emma see his exhaustion. Emma remembered the nights he would return home after a double shift, tired but smiling, carrying her favorite strawberry ice cream. She remembered how he braided her hair before school, even though his big fingers fumbled with the tiny strands. Most of all, she remembered his words. Emma, you are my heart. As long as you smile, I can survive anything. The unseen battle. 3 months ago, Daniel was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. The doctors said it was aggressive, terminal, and that he had only weeks left. Emma's world shattered. She took leave from work, moved back into her childhood home, and became his full-time caregiver. Together, they laughed, cried, watched old movies, and spoke of everything they had never said. But now, the time had come. Daniel was fading. The strong, broad-shouldered man Emma once clung to had become fragile and hollow. His breaths were shallow, his voice barely a whisper, his hands cold despite the blanket wrapped around him. The last night, as the rain poured outside, Emma sat by his bedside, holding his frail hand in both of hers. Dad, she whispered, do you remember the park where you taught me to ride a bike? Daniel smiled faintly, his eyes half closed. Of course, my angel. You fell 100 times. And you picked me up 100 times. That's what daddies do. His voice cracked with tenderness. Tears welled in Emma's eyes. I don't know how I'm Going to live without you, Dad. Daniel turned his head. Slowly, his weak gaze meeting hers. Yes, you do, because you're stronger than you know. Emma bit her lip to stop, the sob rising in her throat. Stay, please. Stay a little longer. Daniel's thumb brushed weakly across her fingers. I wish I could, baby girl, but some goodbyes, they're just part of life. The letter. As the clock struck midnight, Daniel gathered his last bit of strength. Emma, top drawer. Desk, he whispered. Confused, Emma rushed to his desk. Inside, she found a letter, neatly folded, her name written in Daniel's shaky handwriting. She sat beside him, her hands trembling. Read it, when I'm gone, he murmured. No, Dad, I want you here when I read it. Emma cried softly. But Daniel, with a faint smile, closed his eyes. And in the quiet hum of the rainy night, he drifted into sleep, and never woke up. The morning after. The morning light poured into the room, golden and soft, casting a gentle glow over Daniel's face. Emma sat still, her head resting on his chest, her arms wrapped around him as though holding on might pull him back. Hours later, when the hospital staff came, they found Emma cradling her father, eyes red but dry. She had run out of tears. The letter that changed everything. It took Emma 3 days before she found the strength to open the letter. My dearest Emma, if you are reading this, it means I've left this world. I can only hope I left you with enough love to last a lifetime. I was never a perfect father. I missed school, plays. I worked too much. I was tired more days than I can count. But every minute I spent providing for you was the greatest honor of my life. I want you to know, Emma, you were never a burden. You were my reason. Please don't let my death make you afraid of living. Love fiercely. Laugh loudly. Take risks. Forgive easily. And when you miss me, just close your eyes. I will always be there in every sunrise you watch, in every song you sing, in every tear you wipe away. Most of all, Emma, promise me you will live your life, not for me, but for yourself. Because you are, and always have been, enough. My last goodbye is also my first blessing for the life that waits for you. I love you beyond the stars. Dad. Finding her way. The days that followed were a blur. The funeral came and went. Friends and family offered condolences. But in the silence of her apartment, Emma often found herself reaching for her phone, wanting to call him, to hear his voice. Grief, she learned, wasn't something you healed from. It became part of you, woven into your skin. But slowly, she began to honor his wish. She went back to work. She reconnected with old friends. She took walks in the rain, feeling the droplets on her skin and smiling at the memory of her father watching her splash in puddles as a child. She traveled to places they had dreamed of visiting together. She learned to dance, to cook new recipes, to laugh without guilt. And sometimes, at night, she would read his letter again, her heart aching but full. Years later, 10 years passed. Emma, now a woman in her late 30s, stood in a small park, the same one where Daniel had taught her to ride a bike. By her side stood a little boy with messy brown hair and curious blue eyes. "Mom, are you ready?" he giggled, hands gripping the handlebars of his tiny bicycle. Emma smiled warmly. "Yes, sweetheart. I'm ready. And so are you." As she let go, watching her son pedal forward, shakily but determined, Emma felt a presence. In the wind, in the sunlight, in the laughter echoing around her. It was her father, her hero, her guide, her first love, standing with her in spirit, whispering, "See, my angel, you're stronger than you know." Final note. In life, we often fear the final goodbye. But sometimes, that goodbye becomes the seed of our greatest strength. Emma's journey wasn't about letting go of her father. It was about carrying him forward in the way she chose to live. And so, as she stood under the golden sky, watching her son take his first independent ride, she knew one thing for sure. The last goodbye was never really the end. It was just the beginning of a new chapter. One filled with love, memory, and the quiet, everlasting presence of the ones we carry in our hearts. The end.